Welcome to Sacred Magic. Violet is on a quest to bring sacredness back into our everyday experiences. Anyone can have an extraordinary life when they are able to tap into their sacred magic within. Violet and her guests will be sharing their divine passions, inspirations, and stories of connecting with their sacred magic. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet Rayne.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Vialet B Rayne. Thank you for joining us today. My guest is Suzanne Wing. She's an Akashic Channel and a quantum healer. She guides you to heal your heart through time and space in order to live the sovereign creator that you were born to be. When your spiritual awakening is non-negotiable, she kind of helps you navigate those energies. So we're really glad to have her with us today. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. So nice to be here.
I love that. So tell me, what took you down this path to do what you do today? Because some people start out that way, and some of us are guided later on through our careers to switch kind of paths or roads to do something different. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I remembered past lives as a child. I would have these very visceral memories. And I would go to my mom and I would say, I would tell her about this memory that came up. And I would be thinking that this is something that happened to me in this life, because I seem to remember things that happened at the age that I was when I got the download of the past life. And I remember my mom thinking, oh, she's so creative. And it didn't take me long to figure out that like nobody knew what I was talking about. And so these memories were just a point of curiosity for me. And I remember like the age of 10 sitting in church and our pastor saying, well, you have this one lifetime. And I remember thinking, like, surely he knows that's not true. Like, he's up there, like, he's got to know that's not true. And it was just kind of like that thing that kept me seeking. It kind of kept me curious, and I was interested in ghost stories and I was interested in like spirits and just, any metaphysical thing that would come along. I was always curious about it. And just every time in my life when I would begin to really sink into like being normal, and I'd have some sort of either download of a past life, or a ghost would bump into me, or I'd have some sort of metaphysical experience that would just kind of put me right back on my path again of being curious and exploring these things. And then, eventually started meditating and, learning how to read tarot cards and just kind of those normal curious things that we do. But probably the biggest thing was I had moved to California. I had a pretty successful graphic design business in my 20s. I had a little marketing firm. And I was very much enjoying my life, very much enjoying making money, being 3D human, doing all of that stuff. And, I had bought my first house, and it was during a time in California when it was really challenging. I think we had tried to buy 6 different houses and it would sell for way more than the asking price. And so finally, there was this one house that nobody else put an offer. We were the only ones that put an offer, but it was like in the right school district, in the right neighborhood, and a mile from the beach. And well, I know now that the reason we were the only offer was it was a haunted house. And so we had some pretty, uh, we had some pretty scary experiences in that house. I had a daughter, and there was this ghost that was, uh, I mean, doing things that would mess with my daughter, would turn her TV on in the middle of the night and cause her to have nightmares, and, move things around in the house and turn hot water on from the cold pipes. And sneak up to us next to our bed at night. And it was really just getting to the point where I was beside myself. I had a lady come to clear the house with sage, and I had my very Christian uncle praying, reading these verses from the Bible that were all about um, the wrath of God and fighting demons. And I could feel the ghost getting upset every time anything would come out of his mouth. And I thought, this is wrong. This is wrong. And it just got to the point where I was beside myself with these experiences and feeling so out of control. And I finally had this dream house, and it's like, but how could you live at peace in your dream house when you have this very unhappy spirit just following you everywhere? And the more that I would share about it, the more people would build it up to be this demonic spirit that, and had the efforts we had to take became so much more dramatic. And I finally just sat down on the end of my bed and I just surrendered. My cat was hissing and all these things were happening around me. And I felt like I was sitting in the middle of poltergeist. And I just sat down on the end of my bed and I was just completely broke. I felt like I had just been running a marathon and I was collapsing at the end of the finish line. I was just in a state of complete surrender. And I just said, God, tell me what to do. I will do it. And I just heard so clearly, it's like, you have to love him. And I was furious. I was so mad at God. I was just like, no, this is, I am a mother. This thing is going after my daughter. Like, I was outraged that that was my directive, was to love this. And I was like, how can I love something that's that evil? And and this was the part that it just changed me. And God said, he's not evil. He was a human person on earth that never received love. And every time he sees you love your daughter or your husband or your home, it makes him so upset. He gets so angry, and it's bringing him joy to try to interfere because he can't stand to see other people having the thing that he didn't have. And so it just kind of like, it was like the moment that, I mean, it just shifted everything for me. I just realized that, yeah, like that's probably true for everyone when they're at their worst, is, that jealousy or that point of. So I just started with, something would move in the kitchen. I would just be like, okay, I love you. And of course, it would be like saying something you really did not mean. And then you would just kind of keep going with, okay, I'm so sorry that you didn't have love. You should have been loved. And I just, as the days would go by, anytime I felt his presence, I would say it and it would soften. I could feel the energy in the room soften. And meanwhile, I had started going to these meditation circles, and um, we went to this, it was sort of like an alternative church service. And the woman who was the minister of this, it was like a church for psychic people. And so she said, she put a pillow in the middle of the room, and there was the sun shining from these stained glass windows down on this pillow. And she said, I want everyone to raise up your hands, and I want you just to visualize that you're sending light to that pillow. And she goes, and then I want you to invite all lost souls to come into the light. And she invited some angels to come and cross them over into the light. And the minute I put my hands up, I felt that familiar presence, that energy of that spirit stuck in front of my hands, and it was dense and visceral. And so I pushed and he went into the light. And so that was like my first time that I realized that all of these things that we're told not to believe, like ghosts and just the power that we have to communicate with God or with spirits, or all of that is very real. And anyone can do it. Like, you don't have to be special. Like, it's something that you can develop because that is your birthright. You have all of these abilities. And so from there, it just became just like a daily practice of talking to God, listening to God, asking for this and manifesting this. And it was just this building, building, building. But I'd always carried with me that question of the past lives, because I thought, wouldn't it be more helpful if I was just wildly psychic from the beginning and I could, you know, prevent someone from having an accident or something like that? I was like, this is a strange, like, why remember past lives? So I finally had a past life regression. I had learned about Dolores Cannon, and I went and had a QHHT session, her quantum healing hypnosis. And you can bring a list of questions for your higher self. And I asked, why did I remember past lives? And the answer I got was that in all my other past lives, that I used religious trauma as my means of waking up to the truth. So I had have like a terrible experience with my religion. Whereas in this life, I wanted to see what it was like to be a part of a positive spiritual community, a positive religious experience. And I would say, I absolutely did. I had a lovely community of grounded people that, were very loose with their Christian beliefs. And it was like a warm and cozy community. And my higher self said, if she gets, all this love and affection in her Christian community, she'll never go do all the other things that we want her to do. So, yeah, so we had to put something in there. So we all agreed that her remembering past lives would be the little thing that keeps her curious. So every time she starts to be normal, we'll just have her remember another past life.
I
And
love
so,
that.
yeah. And so then that got me exploring what else you can do with past lives and how that can be empowering for people. And then that led me to the Akashic Records. And that's actually led me to mediumship. Now I'm actually doing mediumship. So it's just kind of a journey, and it's very empowering to realize that, we have access to all of these things. It's just a matter of trusting yourself and being curious.
I think the key word always is curiosity, because when we're curious, when we're seekers, we want to know more. Why is it that way? Why does it connect that way? And when we really start looking at broadly at things instead of being very contained into one area, you start to see there are commonalities in all religions, all belief systems, all philosophies. There are common threads through the whole thing. For me, that's truth, because it has showed up in more than one place, which means it's deeply true. It's hard for us to trust these days. At least it's hard for me to trust, because I think everything is manipulated. The news, um, how,
Yes, which is why it's so important for us to learn how to tune into our truth, is because we have these very convincing people speaking on any topic. It's like if you if you are looking to lose weight, you can find data and convincing arguments for every type of diet under the sun.
yeah, my Facebook is full of it, right?
Yes. So you
Or
have to be able to trust yourself and listen to what your own body needs.
well, it's gotten to the point that we don't trust anything, at least for me. That's my opinion. As I look out into the world, people go, well, I read it on the internet. Well, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. Well, I saw it on my Facebook. Well, just because it says that doesn't mean it's true. And it's frustrating. Like, I saw a Facebook post not too long ago about Keanu Reeves having a baby. And when you go look, it's not true, right? So all these stories and all this drama and news and losing weight, or you can get healthy this way, or you can do that. It has really, at least for me, gotten me to a point that I don't trust a lot of that. It's like, yeah, 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 sure. Yeah, yeah. And I just move through it. And you're right. If you're not curious and you're not going within to say, does that feel right? Does that resonate? The world can be very chaotic right now because there's a lot of stuff out there. And when you start diving in, it's like, oh, that's not true. That's not true. That's not factual. That's not where I think when we grew up, at least when I grew up, there were more factual things out there. We just couldn't make up stuff like we can today, you know.
And do we even know they were factual? That's just what everybody agreed was true.
Right, right.
So,
But, you
this is
know,
the narrative that all of the news stations will be.
it's like you can't trust anything that you're told anymore. Like, is that really true? And that to me is sad. I did see a whole because I love watching Good Morning America because it's always more positive. And they were talking about countries that are actually teaching in the schools how to know, is this factual or non-factual, to really be able to understand what's the source, where did it
That's
come from,
that's
is
the
it
new way to
true?
educate.
Right? So they're having to educate their children to be prepared that their world is going to be filled with non-factual stuff. And how do you look at it besides taking it on the surface, which is what we're doing. A lot of people are doing today. So it makes it really hard. So, what would you tell someone that doesn't really understand what past lives are and how that impacts us in this life? Why is it good to understand your past lives? Like what benefit does that give us?
Well, first of all, I don't think that everybody needs to, this isn't for everyone. I don't think that everyone needs to understand their past lives. I think you have an if it is for you, you have a curiosity about it, you have an interest about it, and almost a knowing about it. And the way that it can benefit you is that your soul is this incarnation of you is just one little expression of your soul. And like think of your soul as like a lightning bolt that's striking. You know, sometimes a lightning bolt is just one big bolt striking down, and sometimes it's branching off into all these different places. Well, think about all of those branches as different dimensions or time spaces. So, you know, if everything is happening now, and as quantum physics suggests that it's not past lives, it's actually parallel realities, then your soul has another expression someplace else. So let's say, and this is a common one that you come across, is if someone has a particular birthmark, it could be connected to the way that they died in a past life, and that or maybe that death was traumatic, or maybe it wasn't complete in some way, and then you're born with a mark from the death of that other incarnation. That's one expression of it. And then also, if you have a past life regression and that's the case, a lot of times that scar or birthmark will disappear within days of your session. That's always interesting when that happens. But something that could be an injury in your body could be something that you're carrying from a past life. Or a common one will be if someone feels scattered, if they say, I feel scattered, I don't ever feel centered, is dying by an explosion, a very sudden type of death in another incarnation, then you might have your soul, your energy didn't cross over to the light because, you know, maybe you were confused and you didn't experience the complete death where you die, you leave the body, and then your energy goes to the light, which is where everything comes back to center. So there's different things, but the main thing that we do is that once we're in that other dimension, your energy is expanded and your consciousness is tapping into these other realities, and you do go to that death scene, whether we get clarity or information on something you needed to know there, but we follow your soul to the light. And when you're with the light, you are with your higher self, and you can ask questions about your current life from that perspective when your awareness is up there hanging out with your higher self. So you can ask pretty much anything you want. And it maybe or maybe not, you get those answers, but but technically that's where your higher self has access to your Akashic records, which is the records of everything your soul's ever experienced,
I
and
love that.
lessons that you have or purposes that you're planning for this lifetime. Like, am I on my path? Is there things I need to work on? What's blocking me from this goal? So kind of can get some guidance. And once you make that connection and you just open up those pathways, it's very easier to reconnect once you're in meditation. And it's very easy to open up your clairs, all your clairvoyance, your clairsentience while you're in that space. And that's probably one of my favorite things that people tell me after a session is that, like, after my session with you, I'm so psychic now. I can tune into all these things so easily. And I love to hear that from people.
I love that. I've been doing Akashic record readings and past lives for years and years and years. One of the things that I've always learned is it is very beneficial to tap into past lives in this lifetime because challenges, blocks can be connected to a past life. It could be part of a healing process or a relationship where the cycle needs to end, or something that you've come to support somebody. I find it very healing and beneficial. I've had clients come to me that have had traumatic experiences in this lifetime and they don't understand why that happened to them. And the records can really give clear understanding of why that experience occurred and what was it about, so that it can really provide healing where they can release some of the trauma and really understand what that's about. So past lives can be really helpful. Now, there also can be very entertaining. Oh, you were a king, or you were a queen, or you did this in a lifetime, or this. And I don't like to really play with the entertainment part as much of what's being blocked, what money beliefs did you bring in this lifetime, what contracts have you carried from lifetime to lifetime that are really done and complete, that's time for you to let go. Those are all really powerful ways to really kind of heal and release. And I love the quantum healing part too, because I've had those sessions as well, where you can ask your higher self questions. Of course, the first one I ever did, they turned off all the electronics and nothing could record. And we had 4 pieces of equipment in the room and they couldn't get any of them to work. It was kind of like the person that did it said, your team did not want any of this to be recorded, period. And I'm like, how is that helpful to me?
I'm getting chills because I had a very similar experience when I was very first learning. A woman wanted me to do a session with her husband, and I said, well, I really only do them if he really wants the session, like, and she was like, oh no, he'll do it. And then so when I talked to him, he was like, look, my wife wants me to do this and I like to make her happy, so I'm going to do this. So I was like, okay, well, if that's your intention, then we'll have the session, and what will happen will happen. And so he didn't even really believe in any of it, but he had a very detailed past life about becoming a doctor and being a Civil War doctor. But he told me so many details about becoming a doctor, and that he had his own herb garden and the tinctures that he made and which ones were effective and which plants were good for what. And he could tell me how he made the tincture. I mean, he had so much detail. And then he had to go be a doctor on the battlefield for the Civil War, and how horrible that was and how traumatic that was. And then he had, it got even deeper, and we got to his higher self. And His higher self was doing healings on him. His higher self was giving me information, telling me all kinds of things. There was other planet information. And then his higher self, or, his oversoul was saying, well, he's not really ready for all of this. And I said, well, it's going to be on the recording. I'm like, isn't that, that would be really interesting for him. And he was like, oh, well, we turned that off. We made sure that didn't happen. And I looked, and it was not recording. It was off. And I know I turned it on. Like I absolutely turned it on. And so I was just like, wow. And they said he'll remember some stuff about his past life, that being the doctor, and that will be interesting. That will be enough for him right now. And they said that, oh, he has like an aneurysm, and they're like, we're going to heal that for him. And then maybe he should go get that checked out. So at the end, they said you had an aneurysm, you should get checked out. And he said, well, I have been having headaches. I'm like, well, they said they healed it, but if I were you, I would still go get that checked out.
Well, it does sound very similar. We had 2 cell phones, 2 laptops, nothing would record. And the practitioner said the energy in the room was so powerful that it just blew all the electronics, so nothing ever recorded. And so she's like, it was such a powerful experience and session. And she still talks about it today. And she's been doing sessions for years and years as well. And she goes, that was the most powerful. I've never seen anything like it. And I didn't get a recording at all because nothing would record. And I was like, okay.
Do you remember it?
No, don't remember any of it.
Mm.
Don't remember any of it. It was all she was like, wow, it was so amazing and blah, blah, blah. And I don't even remember what she told me. So none of it's very clear. And so, yeah, it's fascinating to me.
It's interesting. More people remember their sessions today than the ones that were like even 5 years ago. I would say people don't go as deep anymore. They're like their awareness is right on the surface now. So it's like they're observing the whole thing. So I can't tell if it's better or worse that way.
Well, I think that what a lot of people talk about is the veils have thinned. We're able to connect a lot easier into the higher vibrations. We've also raised our vibration, so we're a little higher. We're not as 3D as we used to be. We're not as dense as that, so it allows us to connect more than we've ever had before. And so this in and out of dimensions and timelines and consciousness, time is really strange right now. If you've noticed, 20 minutes seems very long or very short. It's not the same. And you're like, wait a minute. Time is very different. I had something happen to me the other day where I pulled up to a red light, a turn lane, and I was the 4th or 5th car in the back of the lane. When the light turned green, I was the first car.
Yeah,
And I
there's
was like,
lots of little
wait a
glitches.
minute.
How did that happen? Yeah. Yes, and I've also been told in the records that so many people have been clearing their karma and doing all of their work. Like it seems like almost every single family has the person doing all their ancestral healing, that it's the ripple effect from everyone raising their frequency and doing all of this work is closing out the records in terms of karmic contracts. And that now, when we do this work, it's almost like they're taking us to a higher plane. They're taking us to like a different level, not just the Akashic records, like it's in a different plane, just so that they can do higher work.
I think that's awesome. There's lots of stuff happening. This year is going to move really fast. They are pushing us through this year chaos so that we don't get stuck in it. So they're really kind of pushing us. So you'll blink and the year will be gone. To me, it's amazing that we're in April because we
It is.
just started the year. And how are we here already? We're going to move really fast through this year. It's going to be the end of the year before we know it. And
Mhm.
so all the time and the shifts are really happening. So, Suzanne, share with our listeners some of the things that you offer if somebody wanted to work with you. We'll have your website and information here in the description, but just share some of the things that you offer so that our community can connect with you.
Yeah. If you're in Nashville, you can come to my office and we can have a QHHT, a quantum healing hypnosis session, which is the long Dolores Cannon. It's at least a 5-hour session where you go really deep and you become your own channel. You connect to your higher self. And that's my goal, is to get everybody connecting into their being able to do it for themselves. But then I have my Akashic Alchemy session, which is it's like an Akashic record reading, but we do a little Merkaba activation. So I get you in there so you can get some information too. And you can either meet a future version of yourself that's accomplished something that you want and ask questions to your future self, or move to a different thing where there's a block that you need to understand. Like, I really want to get you stepping into your own space so that you can do this for yourself. But in the beginning, within Akashic Alchemy, I will start out channeling for you. Like, I will connect into your records and start, and then get you in there, get your light body activated, and then get you in there so you can start receiving information as well. And then just for the listeners today, I created a little mini session and I just called it a soul message session. And basically I called it your higher self's dealer's choice. So we just start the session. So whether it's me channeling for you or me activating your channeling, it's however much we can get in a 30-minute session. That's the message that you need to hear right now. Then that's it. Maybe it's a mediumship session. It's just whatever it is that you need in that moment. And I just made it a short session. So it's just a really easy no-brainer.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for offering that. That'll be awesome. We'll have that in the description of wherever you're listening or connecting with us on. Suzanne, thanks for taking the time today to come and chat with us and share your story, which was amazing and beautiful. I love how you came through and how you moved through in your house. Sounds like it worked out just perfectly for you and your family.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It was nice to be here.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate Suzanne sharing her sacred magic with us, and I hope you have a sacred magical week and that we will see you in a future show. Please like, comment, and follow us on your favorite channel, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the very near future.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. If you love the show, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.